Let me through, officer. My name's Denham.
Just a moment. Oh, Lieutenant.
Lieutenant, I'm Carl Denham. Carl Denham?
Denham? Oh, that's the man that captured the monster.
Well, Denham, the airplane's got him. Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was Beauty killed the beast.
Good evening, one and all, and welcome. This is the movie program on Public Radio KCBX. It's Take Two. And across the aisle from me, well, if they called King Kong the 8th wonder of the world, it's the 9th wonder of the world. Across the aisle from me, it's Bob Whiteford.
I'm pinching myself right now, Jim. And by the way, across the aisle from me, the incomparable, the czar of film on the Central Coast, Jim Dee. I'm pinching myself right now, Jim, making sure this show is, in fact, live. This is not taped or canned. It's live. Ain't that right, Hank? Yep, Hank gives us a thumbs up. We're here in the flesh, as it is, at the KCBX studios.
And great to be here. Of course, we could be replaying this in the future sometime, so I'll have to do some editing.
Everything I just said has been edited for content.
Well, we have a great show for you tonight. Lots of area to cover. We're going to talk about Wray, who we lost a few weeks ago, and also another giant of the movie business, this time in the category of musical composition, the great Elmer Bernstein, who passed away about a week ago. So we're going to honor them. I'm really surprised at how incredible these two careers are as we did the research on both Wray and Elmer Bernstein. Second part of the show, we're going to segue into a recap of the summer movies since we're heading towards the end of summer and taking a look back at, how we felt about some of the summer movies. We'll open up we'll open up the phone lines and get your take on this summer's films. Before we begin, we'd like to make mention of for all the listeners of Take Two, that this coming Friday, August the 27th, the San Luis Obispo International Film Festival will be hosting their annual outdoor movie screening, as well as dinner at Cafe Roma. The film Big Night will be shown on the Cafe Roma building. And after enjoying some great food from Cafe Roma, you can enjoy the film Big Night with Tony Shalhoub and Stanley Tucci, actually one of my all-time favorite films. If you'd like information for tickets for this Friday's outdoor dinner and screening of Big Night through the San Luis Obispo International Film Festival, please call 546-3456. You can also log on for tickets at www.slowfilmfest.org.
Wow, that should be an outstanding event. Well, here we are talking about Wray, Jimmy.
And of course, you think of Wray, you think of King Kong, right? But as we've discovered, she starred in over 90 movies in her career. In fact, 93 movies. But again, you think Wray, you think King Kong, right?
You know, absolutely, Jim. We know King Kong, a classic for all time. In fact, when we were talking about King Kong this morning, both of us were getting all excited, talking about the monster, the special effects, the Willis O'Brien special effects, which were just wonderful and still are quite good even to this day. And the fact that the monster, he's taken from his home and he's brought to another jungle, the urban jungle, where he kind of flips his lid over the beauty of Wray. And that's something that I don't know if a lot of, especially our younger viewers, really realize. Wray was one of the most beautiful movie stars I can ever remember. And especially 1933, she did King Kong, Mystery of the Wax Museum, which was the forerunner to House of Wax with Vincent Price in 1953. And I might add, that was one of the first films shot in color, and the adaptation of the great story Most Dangerous Game, where her and Joel McCrea are hunted as game on an island. So those are 3 horror classics that she did in one year. And I might add, she was very scantily clad in all 3. In fact, all 3 films were heavily censored. She was definitely a forerunner of, and I think we were talking about this earlier too, Jim, the Scream Queen.
Yeah, on the biography, her nickname is the Scream Queen. And to give you some background information on Fay Wray, she was born September 15th, 1907. She passed away this month on the 8th of August. And I was trying to calculate her age. When watching a little bit of King Kong today, Bob, she looks so young. I mean, she looked like she's in her late teens. I guess she was around 25 or 26, as well as those other 2 films that you mentioned. So, and, we were also talking about the so-called arc of her career. Prior to King Kong, I believe she worked with Erich von Stroheim, really had quite a list of films, and then, something happened.
I think what happened is, Jim, maybe she got married, and it was one of those where the man's going to go out and make the money. She was going to be the trophy wife. She started going from the A-list films. Suddenly she's working for Monogram, doing like Navy, what was it, Navy Spies or something ghastly like that. And then all of a sudden her career just stopped dead in the water with the onset of World War II. I can only assume this must be a personal thing, a marriage, the rules of the marriage. Maybe she stayed home and raised kids while hubby, was maybe worked in films or something. He was the breadwinner. But I guess when that marriage went kaput, we got to see her again in the early 50s. In fact, she did a lot of work in early live television.
Yes.
A lot of work, showing up in Perry Mason,
that's right,
Playhouse 90, all over the place.
Yeah, she did numerous TV appearances, as you mentioned, the Alfred Hitchcock Presents, the Kraft Television Theater, Jane Wyman Presents Fireside Theater. And interesting about the career, Bob, as I'm looking at her filmography here, is she made a couple of films, one in 1941 called Melody for Three, and then in 1942, Not a Ladies' Man, and then a full 11 years passed until 1953, where she was in a film called Treasure of the Golden Condor, then Small Town Girl in 53 as well. She seemed to rev up again in 1953. Her final film was a television film called Gideon's Trumpet in 1980.
And I believe that was with Henry Fonda.
Oh.
And that was a great made-for-TV movie. One of the few really great ones. She also did such films later in her career as Cobweb with Richard Widmark and Lauren Bacall. That's the story of a life inside a woman's sanitarium. She did, oh my goodness, what was it? Crimes of Passion, one of the really interesting film noirs of the late 50s, came out in 1957. Barbara Stanwyck, who, I got to tell the story of this film, Jim, because this is really twisted. Barbara Stanwyck plays this really tough-as-nails, independent, very modern, really, what would you call it? A very self-assured San Francisco newspaper reporter who's covering a murder case, and she runs into an L.A. homicide detective that's up there to bring back this woman to L.A. from San Francisco, portrayed by Sterling Hayden. And one look at Sterling Hayden, and suddenly Barbara Stanwyck decides she wants to knit socks and live in suburbia and cook him food. And the switch is so wild. and improbable that trouble is right around the corner. And sure enough, she moves to Los Angeles. I love the film noirs where they go from San Francisco to Los Angeles, sometimes back and forth, like Out of the Past and the, what's the other one with Edmund O'Brien when he has a wife in San Francisco and in Los Angeles. It was done by Ida Lupino. I can't remember the title right now, but when Barbara Stanwyck gets to L.A., his boss, Sterling Hayden's boss, is played by Raymond Burr. And Raymond Burr's wife is played by Fay Wray. And this is kind of interesting because it's a kind of a dowdy Fay Wray, very different from the Scream Queen that we've known and loved over the years. And this is a fascinating film, and Fay Wray delivers a really good performance. I mean, there's the four of them. There's cheating, there's murder, there's mayhem. She's right in the middle of it, and she carries her part extremely well. But at this point in her career, she was playing parents to juvenile delinquents. She was John Saxon's mother in 1957's Rock Pretty Baby. She was also
right
in Drag Strip Girl, playing, I think, Faye Spain's mother. Faye Spain, one of her heirs is a Scream Queen from the 50s, the AIP films. Barbara, what was the name? Beverly Garland would be one. Allison Hayes. In the 40s, you had Anne Gwynn, Iona Massey. Who the heck is that other gal? Evelyn Ankers, all being threatened by the Frankenstein monster. Later on, you had people like Barbara Steele, Barbara Shelley, the Hammer Girls, Carolyn Monroe, her mother Janet Monroe, Linnea Quigley, and Brink Stevens, kind of the more modern era Scream Queens. They all followed in the Fay Wray tradition.
And let's listen to this Fay Wray tradition. In fact, we have some quotes from Fay Wray. She said, at the premiere of King Kong in 1933, I wasn't too impressed. I thought there was too much screaming. I didn't realize then that King Kong and I were going to be together for the rest of our lives and longer. That's a quote from Fay Wray. And here's a clip from King Kong.
Think he's crazy, Skipper?
Just enthusiastic.
Now, Ann, in this one, you're looking down. When I start to crank, you look up slowly. You're quite calm. You don't expect to see a thing. Then you just follow my directions. All right? Camera. Look up slowly, Ann. That's it. You don't see anything. Now look higher. Still higher. Now you see it. You're amazed. You can't believe it. Your eyes open wider. It's horrible, Ann, but you can't look away. There's no chance for you, Ann. No escape. You're helpless, Ann, helpless. There's just one chance. If you can scream, but your throat's paralyzed, try to scream, Ann. Try. Perhaps if you didn't see it, you could scream. Throw your arms across your eyes and scream, Ann. Scream for your life. What's he think she's really going to see?
Oh, what a build up as they're approaching Kong Island in that scene. And of course, Carl Denham, the ultimate showman, is going to make it all into a movie, and he's got his femme fatale who ends up being the ultimate object of Kong's affections. And folks, if you have seen King Kong on TV, you may not have seen all of it. In fact, with respect to some of the deleted scenes, which were mostly taken out for violence, where King Kong is chewing on the natives or stomping on them, or a very powerful scene when he is scaling the Empire State Building, and in the version you might have seen on television for years, as he gets to the bedroom where she's talking with Bruce Cabot, I believe, and grabs her. There's a scene that was deleted just before that where Kong pulls a woman out of another room in the Empire State Building, looks at her, sees that it is not Ann Darrow, portrayed by Fay Wray, but someone else, and he just sort of flips her off, and she falls to her death. pretty, he knew who he wanted to be with. So
That's interesting, Jim. I mean, one thing about King Kong, for so many years, there was talk of the deleted scenes. I think there was like a crab monster, maybe, of some sort.
there was supposedly a spider underneath
That's
when
it.
he's got the guys on the big log going across the big crevasse, and I think there was maybe some still shots of that. I don't know if anything.
And I
was
know
ever
there was
filmed.
some topless stuff with Fay Wray as well, which Dino De Laurentiis made sure he inserted in his 1976 version, the film that almost ruined the career of a great actress, Jessica Lange, before it ever started.
She overcame that one, but
Yes, she did.
But there is a scene in the original King Kong where Kong does, dare I say, pull the clothes off of Fay Wray and actually sniffs his fingers.
Oh, my goodness.
Goodness me. Here's another scene from King Kong. It's kind of the melodramatic, kind of silly repartee between Bruce Cabot and Fay Wray. And again, we were talking about the emotions of this film, the fact that folks, Bob said to me, it was a great quote. We're talking about King Kong, and he said to me, when he falls from the Empire State Building, he's shot down, nobody's cheering. I mean, you like this monster, and that's the key to it, and also the key to the monster is the fact that he loved Fay Wray.
Absolutely, as did we all.
As did we all. But here's some romantic repartee on the ship on the way to Kong Island.
Say, why aren't you in bed?
Oh, I can't sleep. The sound of those drums makes me nervous, I guess.
I think Dunham's off his nut taking you ashore today.
Well, I was a little scared.
I guess you weren't the only one.
I wonder what we do next.
It's just what's worrying me. If Dunham's such a fool for risks, there's no telling what he might ask you to do for this picture.
Well, after all he's done for me, I'd take any kind of chance for him.
Don't talk like that. So he's crazy enough to try anything.
Well, I won't go back on him.
And I think what might have happened today. See, if anything had happened to you,
Well, then you wouldn't be bothered with having a woman on board.
don't laugh. I'm scared for you. I'm I'm scared of you, too. And, say, I guess I love you.
Why, Jack, you hate women.
Yeah, I know. But you aren't women. Say, Anne, I don't suppose, well, you don't feel anything like that about me, do you?
Fill in the blanks.
Sealed with a kiss. That's
Sealed.
my guess.
Sealed with a kiss. So our tribute here on Take Two to Fay Wray. She is known best, obviously, for King Kong, but what a vast career. She was in 93 films, many TV appearances, and start with King Kong, and branch out. Check out her filmography, and an amazing Hollywood icon, Fay Wray. And Bob, as I'm listening to that last clip, and we were talking about the emotions brought forth by King Kong, I mean, even with the really kind of wooden acting and, kind of melodramatic and sappy, there's still an emotional resonance in King Kong that
Absolutely.
we don't see today.
Bruce Cabot, kind of the forerunner to the John Agar kind of leading man. Bruce Cabot, who would turn up later on in a lot of John Wayne movies like Hellfighters, where the Duke plays Red Adair, Green Berets, and War Wagon, where he plays an Indian. Kind of went to the Joey Bishop acting school for that. A lot of ugh. But, at least he worked. Bruce Cabot worked for many years.
Well, let's move on now on Take Two, the movie program. We lost another a giant in the movie industry, Elmer Bernstein, and I'm so grateful that a couple of years ago, Elmer Bernstein was honored at the San Luis Obispo International Film Festival, had a chance to shake his hand, and Bob, we did some research. We did a tribute to Elmer Bernstein at that film festival, and even today when I was looking back at the vast filmography as a musical composer, Elmer Bernstein is like, it's unbelievable.
Probably the most prolific film composer ever. I mean, this man was working right up until when he died.
They give him credit for the Magnificent Seven theme in Fahrenheit 9/11, so right up to his death. Elmer Bernstein was born April 4th, 1922, and he passed away this month, August 18th, 2004. And he was working right up to the end, and a very interesting film that he did a soundtrack for, Far From Heaven, from 2002, which was a lot like some of the films he worked on back in the 40s and 50s. But, only on take two you would know that Elmer Bernstein, going back to his early years, 1953, the soundtrack for
Robot Monster.
Boom,
boom, boom, boom. Actually, it was a red letter year for Elmer Bernstein. He did Robot Monster, easily one of the worst films of all time, and Cat Women of the Moon with Sonny Tufts and Marie Windsor.
Folks, if you don't remember Robot Monster, the Robot Monster was a guy in a gorilla suit and this sort of space helmet with big antennas going out. Now, if that doesn't bring back childhood memories, it does for me. Because,
me too. I mean, you can't... Just think of it like the flip side to King Kong. Only it comes on after midnight, and it's the best thing about the movie, Jim, it's only an hour long.
Let's listen to some music from Elmer Bernstein and the wide range of musical styles that he worked into his music. This is the nice kind of sleazy music from Walk on the Wild Side. Music by Elmer Bernstein, that sort of swaggering, kind of sexy, and, Walk on the Wild Side was wonderfully kind of sleazy.
It really was. And I think the only thing that was legitimately great about it, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love this movie, but it's kind of trashy. But what's really great cinematically is the Elmer Bernstein score. It's amazing. And I think in part, Bernstein he was very comfortable in the urban jungle in films like Walk on the Wild Side. Also his jazz score from the equally wonderful, a great film, Sweet Smell of Success from 1958 with Burt Lancaster, Tony Curtis, a young Martin Milner. I mean, Bernstein really you could feel the dirt on the street, and you smell the garbage, and you're loving being in the city because everything's electric and alive. And conversely, the flip side, he could do themes for small town America that would leave you with a lump in your throat, kind of a, returning home, coming home and not quite fitting. Like a film I saw the other day, Jim, we were talking about recently, John Frankenheimer's lost film, The Gypsy Moths, came out in 1969, starred Burt Lancaster, Deborah Kerr, Gene Hackman, Scott Wilson. Oh, and for those out there that don't know, that's Luke and Owen's dad. And it's about a bunch of skydivers jumping in a 4th of July show in a small town in Kansas. And as Lancaster, Hackman, and Scott Wilson are driving into this small town, Bridgetown, Kansas, Elmer Bernstein just has this great theme. And it's like, here we are. It's like the big trees, the nice old house, small town, Norman Rockwell's Small Town America. And the theme is done by Elmer Bernstein. Very much at home.
You know, just as a scattershot overview of Bernstein's films, you mentioned the John Frankenheimer film Gypsy Moth from 1969. He also did the music for Birdman of Alcatraz. That was in 1962. And just going over some of these other films, the Ten Commandments, we have a little bit of that music, The Sweet Smell of Success you mentioned, Bob. But then there are other ones that are so surprising to me. I'm trying to find the ones that, well, The Great Escape, HUD. But then we go to, where is it? Well, True Grit is another one.
I think that won an Academy Award. And that's arguably not his strongest score. I think Glenn Campbell's song won for it, as did, of course, Big John Wayne, his Best Actor award, as was it Rooster Cogburn.
But he takes on the films that are considered classics, but here he did the the music in 1977 for Billy Jack Goes to Washington.
Yeah, not Billy Jack. Not Born Losers, but Billy Jack Goes to Washington. Kind of returning to his robot monster roots there.
Yeah. Let's listen to a little bit more. I mean, I think we have to play this by Elmer Bernstein. Okay, that music is not only indelibly etched on moviegoers' musical memory, but he was so adept at this guy was so filled with music. And what I really like on this next clip, Bob, is it is also from The Return of the Magnificent Seven. And if this had been the title theme, this would be indelibly etched. It seems like, my feeling about Elmer Bernstein is you could go up to him and say, I really like the Magnificent Seven theme. Why don't you do something kind of like that? Well, here's a cut from The Return of the Magnificent Seven, and he could probably do this in his sleep. Listen to this. This is called On the Move from Return of the Magnificent Seven. How does he do it?
I don't know. I mean, and the thing is, you could hear the first few bars of The Great Escape, and you could say the same thing. It's like, how does he do this? I mean, that whole film, all these films, it's just loaded with little bits of music or great themes that are amazing. This guy is a composer of the first order. I believe when we were talking about him a couple of years ago, Elmer Bernstein and Bernard Herrmann are probably, and Jerry Goldsmith, probably some of the greatest musicians, the greatest composers this country has ever produced. And speaking metaphorically here, they're all gone now, but they're a dying breed. The film composer, they don't make music like this for movies anymore. And I gotta say, strongly, movies are the worse for it.
Oh, I agree, Bob. And one reason why I think I really wanted to honor Elmer Bernstein and just to look for his music sometimes you get soundtrack music for films, and unless, it's kind of weak sometimes, or if you hear it apart from the film, it just doesn't hold up. I would say that's not true with Elmer Bernstein. You can get soundtrack music of any of his compositions, and he has done some other work outside of the movies, and that was very impressive. We were playing some of that music a couple of years ago where he was just composing for himself and not thinking visually, let's say, and that was excellent. But if you look for the music of Elmer Bernstein, you're going to get some great music that is not only integral to making a movie better, but it stands on its own.
Often better than the movie itself. Case in point, Return of the Seven, the sequel to the absolutely incredible and wonderful, magnificent Seven. I think we were talking about this a couple of years ago as well, that they started with the Bernstein soundtrack and built a movie around that. Like now they would build it around like computerized effects. In those days, 1966, they built the sequel around this magnificent score.
Yeah, boy. We do, you've heard the music from Ghostbusters, but we won't play that for you because our time is flying here on Take Two, the movie program. But we are going to play a bit of music for you from one of the greatest movies of all time. We've talked about it many times on this program. Our listeners concur that it is one of the greatest movies. And this is a film that all the elements came together and were brought to the fore and made even better with the incredible Elmer Bernstein score. You're listening to Take Two, the movie program on public radio, KCBX, San Luis Obispo, KSBX, Santa Barbara. And the movie I'm talking about is To Kill a Mockingbird. Funds for Take Two, the movie program, have been provided in part by Morin Brothers Automotive, starring Frida, the dog of many alter egos, who is always glad to sniff your tires. Morin Brothers Automotive on Broad, near Tank Farm Road. Take Two is also sponsored by Smart Systems, expertise focused on the design, sales, and installation of custom music and video systems. Advanced technology for residential and commercial customers since 1984. More at kcbx.org. We're back on Take Two, the movie program on Public Radio KCBX. It's another other than Bob Whiteford across the aisle from me. My name is Jim Dee. And, today as we were discussing the program, we're talking about these great films with Fay Wray, and we're talking about the wonderful music of Elmer Bernstein, and we realize we're sort of skidding to the end of the summer of 2004. We were going to look back at the summer crop of movies, summer being one of the most, the big movie times of the year. It's when they roll out all the blockbusters. And boy, I'll say it, after talking about things like To Kill a Mockingbird or King Kong or something like that, or those films. And looking back at the crop of films, I didn't see all of them by any means over the summer, but I saw quite a few. And I guess I want to say I wish they made them like they used to, or I wish there was a film that really knocked my socks off in the summer of 2004. Perhaps the most notable and interesting aspect of this past summer was the documentaries, Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, which was, the most unobvious summer blockbuster. But as we look down the list, and we'll put it out to our listeners, we'll open up the phone lines. starting off the summer, we had the infamous Van Helsing, which seemed to disappear rather quickly. Some Spider-Man 2, which did a lot of business, but I thought it was just okay. Great action scenes. We had, just going down some of the summer crop, there's The Village. It's still in theaters. Spider-Man 2, Troy, Collateral, still in theaters with Tom Cruise. Anchorman with
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. The Day After Tomorrow, another early entry that seemed to fade rather quickly. I, Robot, Shrek 2, I know, was a huge hit at the beginning of the summer. The Manchurian Candidate is still in theaters. Jonathan Demme's remake and retake on the classic from John Frankenheimer. Garden State just about to open in this latter part of the summer, but there was also Dodgeball. Interestingly, The Terminal, the Steven Spielberg film that seemed to just be under the radar the entire summer, kind of quickly disappeared and had Tom Hanks in it. Shall I say Alien versus Predator?
Drive-in movie.
Yeah. But, boy, you know, I guess I'm looking for that memorable summer movie experience. Dare I say I didn't get it this last summer.
My opinion, Jim, is that the Summer Thunder was actually stolen by the documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
Fahrenheit 9/11, Control Room, The Corporation, and I imagine that they're just harbingers of more stuff to come. Because the big films, every time I tried to motivate myself to go see one, and I know I should, you know, I feel it's my duty, you know, being that we're on the air here, to say, okay, at least I saw some of these. Well, I saw a couple. They were horrible. And to me, it just said, okay, look, my instincts were right. Or maybe I've just become a curmudgeon. I don't know. But I'll tell you, Van Helsing left me with absolutely nothing. That was, I can't believe that $100 million will buy you that. What a pile of junk.
Boy. Well, you know, the number is 549-8855, 1-800-549-8855, and give us a call. Let us know what you felt about the summer of 2004 films, if you'd like to talk about Fay Wray, and if you'd like to talk about Elmer Bernstein. We're open to these subjects tonight. And, you know, as we're talking about these classic films, and like you said, Bob, 100 million, or, you know, now the average price of a film is about that. And you want to leave with something that's really memorable. I mean, for instance, I saw Spider-Man 2, and I really did love the special effects when Spidey and Doc Ock are going to it. It's great. The emotional resonance of Peter Parker just didn't
I think
grab
the
me.
first one was better.
Yeah, I think so,
At
too.
least it wasn't as bad as the Hulk. We can...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
mean, when we talk about the emotional resonance of King Kong, for instance, and, you know, I loved it when the Hulk was throwing tanks around, and I like it when Spider-Man was going after Dr. Octopus, but the emotional resonance just wasn't there. I think it would have enhanced it.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the phones. Let us know your name and where you are calling from. Good evening. You're on Take Two.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Priscilla from Cambria.
Hi, Priscilla.
This is the first time I've called. You guys are wonderful.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're great humans. I appreciate you guys.
Well, one of us
what
is
about
human.
a movie I saw at the Palm this afternoon? What in the bleep do we know?
What'd you think?
Pretty incredible. It had some very interesting reactions that I had to it. I really had the sense of possibility and hope about, you know, what can go on in our brains and in our universe. And then I felt a degree of sadness about the fact that we're not there yet, which is kind of a shame because I really enjoyed the movie, but it was interesting how it elicited those kinds of emotions in a person.
I find it fascinating you're bringing up What the Bleep as a summer movie. It has been released this summer, and it is really different than anything.
Totally, yeah.
Just to give the listeners an idea, it's about quantum physics. It's about thought processes. It's about going beyond what we think is reality and what isn't reality. And we've had a very good response to it. And again, we can almost put it in the category of documentaries this summer because much of the film has to do are interviews with physicists and people who are doing very advanced types of thinking. And here again, it seems like this past summer, despite the huge grosses of Shrek and Spider-Man 2, that people were interested in reality this summer.
Well, it was a wonderful stretch, and I really appreciate you being there.
Well, I appreciate you coming to see the film.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Bye-bye.
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 Good evening. You're on take two.
Janet Slowtown. Elmer Bernstein, to me, came up with two great scores. Cast a Giant Shadow, which I have.
Excellent film. Great score.
Great. I mean,
I have
the theme
that score,
song
too.
is just insanely great. And another movie, Hallelujah Trail.
Oh, yeah.
That music is just out of this world. And I would also throw in Comancheros. And if you ever saw a great action movie, Zulu Dawn.
Oh, absolutely. Great theme.
This guy had God. How did he do it?
I don't know.
He was.
I'm just glad that he did.
Oh, I am too, because that music is so lyrical. It's like it came from the Aaron Copland school, but God, he was #1 graduate.
Absolutely.
He was fantastic. Okay, that's all I have to say. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Janet.
Thank you.
Boy, that was great to get some feedback on some Elmer Bernstein films that we haven't talked about.
Cast a Giant Shadow with Kirk Douglas. It's a film about a true life story. Mickey Marcus, he was an American, I guess technically a mercenary, hired to help Israel form an army at the formation of the country back in 1947. Senta Berga and Angie Dickinson. Only Kirk Douglas could juggle those two and get away with it. But she's right. Elmer Bernstein's score, which I have as well, is amazing. Good cameo by Frank Sinatra, too.
Our thanks to Janet for mentioning those Elmer Bernstein films that are on his vast list.
Zulu Dawn, his score for that is great as well.
Good evening. You're on take two. Hello.
Oh, that must be me. I recognize the sound when you pop me up.
That's Tom. Hey, Tommy.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Tom.
How are you?
Fine. How about you?
I'm incredibly well. But I'm gonna get better.
Outstanding.
Hey, listen, guys. I heard you moaning and groaning about the summer blockbusters, and I thought there were two that were worth going to. I really liked Spider-Man 2. I thought they did a marvelous job on that. It was very like the comic strip itself. Maybe that's why a lot of people did not like it, because it was.
I've got the comics, Tom. I thought the battles I thought Doc Ock was great.
And I really liked The Bourne Supremacy. I thought that was an excellent film.
Tell us about that a little bit, Tom. Now that's a sequel?
Uses a lot of the handheld techniques that we're beginning to see more of. Almost the MTV version of a movie with a lot of fast changes. And it's one of those movies where you've really got to pay attention or you'll lose the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is made especially easy for you. But I thought Matt Damon did a superb job in the character that he played. And if you've read the books, it doesn't literally follow the books, but it does follow the character of the books. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, yeah. We get you.
I know that Ebert and Roper really like these films, and they're thinking of it as a franchise, and Matt Damon being really good in it, and they'll hopefully make another Bourne movie.
Yeah, I expect there'll be a third one. They leave you with that feeling at the end of it, as a matter of fact. It is extremely well done. The cinematography just absolutely snaps. It's so crisp and clean and clear, and it fits the plot so well. And as I said, it probably left some people pretty confused.
But then again, Tom, I think good spy movies should leave people confused because it's all that
there's got to be an air
duplicitous.
of mystery. You
Totally.
know, it can't be totally logical. It's not like a good murder mystery is logical. You should be able to afterwards say, well, I could have figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
How many books are there, Tom? Do you know how many books?
I think there are only 3 in the Bourne series. I'm not positive, though, so don't quote me on that. I'm not positive.
Okay, we're quoting you, Tom. 3.
Well, I missed you guys last week. I was on vacation, but I was sure glad to hear you today. You do a good job.
Well, we appreciate the call, and thanks for enlightening us on some good summer movies, because we didn't even mention the Bourne Supremacy. We've got some of the ones, a list of some of the big grossing films, but I know there was a bunch of others that we didn't mention, and Bourne Supremacy, I think, is a great one. That got unanimously great reviews.
Yeah, it did. If you have not seen it, you should spend the time and go see it. It's still playing, I understand.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it's still out there. But it's well worth it. I didn't see anything else that I can really recommend other than I did see Shrek 2, and that was fun. You know, that's just a fun movie. There's nothing about that that's significant. Except for the computer graphics have improved so much.
Well, you know, Tom, fun is good. I mean, I'm not a total stick in the mud here. But fun is good. I just hate being bored. I hate leaving a movie theater feeling nothing, feeling like I'm ripped off. And that's, I know it's my problem. I know it. I probably watched too many movies. But
well, I don't think you'll be bored with the Bourne Supremacy.
I like the first Bourne film. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out, Tommy.
The second one is better. The second one is better.
Good. Excellent.
And if you saw the first one, it's much easier to understand the second one.
Oh.
If you just walked in on the first one and didn't see the second one, you could be in real trouble.
We don't want that.
Yeah. But if you've seen the first one, then the second one becomes a much more an exercise in logic.
And the first one's called The Bourne Identity, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Tom.
Movies, both of them.
We're enlightened. We've got a couple of good ones for this summer, and I like Spider-Man too. I did knock my socks off, but I did like it.
Yeah, it was a fun movie, but the basic thing about Spider-Man 2 to me was it captured the character of the comic book and where the author was going. I mean, the kid had a lot of angst.
Yes.
And,
Well, that's the whole Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, it really is. It was unique in its time, and it revitalized comics.
Absolutely.
Because it was a hero that was fallible.
Superhero with super problems. Yeah, you're talking to 2 Silver Age Marvel fanatics here. Thanks a lot, Tommy. It's always great to hear from you.
Always fun to talk to you guys. Bless your hearts. We'll see you again.
Thank you,
Take care, Tom.
And give my best to Hank, will you?
He's the best.
He's sending you a salute.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, Tom.
So long.
Good evening. You're on Take 2. Hello.
Hi, this is Dave from Santa Maria.
Hi, Dave.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I'd like to tell you a little anecdote about Elmer Bernstein.
Love it.
Sure.
In about 1969, I lived in Agora, and I had a old Nash Rambler for sale. So I put a sign up in the local country store, Whizzens, and immediately drove home, and the phone was ringing. And this guy wanted to come see the car. So he came over, he drove the car, liked it. It was like $200. So we're down in the family room and chit-chatting, and I'm sure along the line somewhere he must have told me his name, but it didn't ring a bell with me. And so in the course of chit-chat, I asked him what he did, and he looked over at his female companion, and he said, well, I write a little music, and he kind of winked at her, and I thought, gee, what's going on here? And it wasn't until he left, and I looked at the check, and the check said Elmer Bernstein, and I slapped my forehead, and I said, "You're an idiot." That's my little story about Elmer.
I love it. Great story.
What a great
story. A great guy. He was gracious. He was just a nice guy. Oh, I asked him what he was going to do with the car, and he said he was going to haul hay for his... He had a little ranch down in Malibu, and he was going to haul hay for his horses in it.
Wow.
I love this story.
That's great. Plunking down $200 for a Nash.
And if I was smart, I would never have cashed that check.
Well, yeah, it's okay.
Anyway, I really like your show, guys.
Oh, well, you just made it great with that
Yeah,
story.
that's the story for the night. Thank you, Dave.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great story.
Great story. Good evening. You're on take 2. Hello.
Hello. Is this me?
It's you.
It's you.
Oh, great. Well, you know, a couple of weeks ago I heard you guys talking about kind of obscure movies that really bore the resemblance of the author or the writer that just kind of dropped out of sight and you never heard from again, but it was something kind of interesting or obscure. And I just kind of came in the middle of your program tonight, and I didn't really want to depart from the theme if there was one, but I heard you mention movies, or this other caller that said movies that left you confused. And I couldn't help but wonder, well, why not? I call this movie I saw once by the comedian Stephen Wright, The Appointments of Dennis Jennings. Have either of you guys seen that?
No. Enlighten us.
Well, you've heard of Stephen Wright.
Yeah.
The comedian?
Right.
He's kind of a deadpan, just says things that don't make sense, like I parked my car in the tollway zone, came back, and the whole entire area was gone, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay, well, this whole movie, you're watching this movie, and you're trying to figure out a plot. You're trying to figure out a storyline. And it just keeps you guessing and guessing and guessing, and then guess what? It's over. And I just couldn't help but wonder if that was the punchline.
Well, give us the title again.
The Appointments of Dennis Jennings.
Now, did you see it on video, or was it in a movie theater?
Yeah, I think it was on HBO or something. It was on cable years ago, and I was watching it at my parents' house. But I just, after watching it so intently, and when it ended so abruptly without any kind of explanation or closure, I thought, oh, well, that's it, isn't it? So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there as this kind of like a movie that bore the character of the writer embedded in it somehow. Anyway,
I think you're probably we did a replay of a show a couple weeks ago about ambiguities, where where things are just left hanging, or things aren't really forthright in films, and so this sounds like a classic in that genre.
Perfect example. Yeah. And the title again, one last time.
Sure, The Appointments of Dennis Jennings.
Appointments of Dennis Jennings.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out about that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Enjoy. I love your program.
Well, thanks for the call.
Hey, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Good evening. You're on take 2. Hello.
I guess this is me. It's Cecile.
Oh, hi, Cecile.
Hi, you guys.
It's like old home week here.
I agree with the caller on the born supremacy. Holy mackerel. I didn't see the first one, and I actually felt that I would like to, because I saw, because of the born supremacy, but I felt that I knew exactly what was going on. Of course, I did read The Bourne Identity a long time ago, but it's terrific. It's terrific. I felt like I was going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and they have a car chase in it that like rivals, the French Connection or Bullet. It was just incredible.
Who wrote the book, Cecile?
Robert Ludlum.
Okay.
And then The Manchurian Candidate I thought was excellent, the remake.
Uh-huh.
And I missed the program that you guys did on that, because I didn't miss it. I heard it, but I didn't call in because I hadn't seen it yet. And I thought they did a great job on that one, too. And it actually made me miss the old kind of simple days of communism. But anyway...
Well, let's get some mortar and pistol and go back to Berlin and put the wall back up.
And when also I think you all did it. I think you did the show on To Kill. Gregory Peck. When Gregory Peck died, To Kill a Mockingbird figured. heavily in that show. And I have to say that in terms of Elmer Bernstein or Bernstein, that I don't know, that piece of music was just the most evocative. Even if you didn't have a childhood that resembled anything that they did, it felt like you did when you listened to that music. Something happened to people, I think, and it all added to the ambiance of that film. If that music had been any different, I don't know how it would have worked out. But how they say movie music is pretty psychological. It just sort of leads you through, and it does really affect your mood. But those are my offerings. But I did think, for just like sheer fun, fun, I guess, the Bourne Supremacy.
And you like the Manchurian Candidate as well?
I sure did, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, it wasn't that bad of a summer after all.
I guess we're the only ones that have. I'm just having a rotten summer here. I think it's because I can't get out to go see a lot of these. And
well, you really should give the Bourne Supremacy a shot, because I think it'll just be fun for you, and it is beautifully shot. Okay, so that's my thing.
Thank you, Cecile.
Right.
Great recommendations.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Cecile.
And this is our last caller. Good evening. You're on Take
Good
Two.
evening, guys. Thank you again. You guys have the best show on the coast, probably in the state.
Oh, thank you.
Probably in the country. Anyways, I'm sorry to see Elmer Bernstein lost. By the way, my name's Jesse. I'm on the road, and but I think there's a good composer that probably uses a lot of his style, and that's Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
And he probably is like he's just been passed the baton for that, and I think Elmer Bernstein, the only way you can really appreciate that is in a good theater. But that's my take. Again, love your show.
Thank you for calling. That's a great recommendation of a film composer, Danny Elfman, formerly
Absolutely.
of Oingo Boingo, but moving on with
And let's face
movies.
it, he made Forbidden Zone what it is today.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, folks, check out Fay Wray. She had a huge film career beyond King Kong, and just for good measure, check out King Kong again. It's always fun to watch. And if you see a film with a great Elmer is it Bernstein or when he was here? I think it was Bernstein. But it's okay.
I never get it right.
Either or. If movies with a Elmer Bernstein soundtrack or buying his music on its own, it holds up. And it was a pleasure doing tributes to both Fay Wray and Elmer Bernstein.
And it's a pleasure to be back in the flesh after a few weeks, toiling away at our jobs. It's just good to be back here and touching base, reconnecting with everybody. I've had a blast, Jimmy.
Thanks to our listeners. Thanks to Hank, and we'll see you next week on Take Two.